News across the pond, another blow to British Prime Minister Boris Johnson's plan to lead Britain out of the European Union. We learned this morning there will be no votes today on his Brexit divorce deal. This after the House of Commons voted to reject his attempt to hold a new vote. Joining us now to discuss is Thomas Cole, head of policy at People's Vote. Thomas, good to have you here with us today. Let's break this down. Johnson has promised to get the UK out of the European Union by October 31st. How likely is it that he makes good on that promise?
Well, first of all, hi, Brad. Hi, Hope. Good afternoon to both of you. It's the evening here now in London. It's been another tumultuous day in the Brexit and the ongoing Brexit saga now in the UK. And it is indeed true, as you said in your introductory piece, that the vote which Boris Johnson wanted to put to the Houses of Commons this afternoon on his Brexit withdrawal deal, that wasn't allowed. And it was essentially on a technicality due to the fact that he tried already putting that same vote to a deal, that same deal to a vote on Saturday. And the rules of the House of Commons are a little bit arcane, but essentially saying that you cannot have two votes which are quasi-identical in the same parliamentary sitting. So because of that, Johnson wasn't able to put his deal to a vote today. But as an alternative, he's going to try getting through the legislation to implement that deal. He's going to try bringing that forward to a vote tomorrow. And there the votes are very much on a knife edge. It's to be seen whether or not he can even get that through. And as I guess as a reminder to all your viewers, the Brexit deadline, the day on which the UK is scheduled to leave the EU, is Thursday of next week. It's in 10 days' time, and we haven't even got a deal in place yet. The whole thing is an absolute mess.
And, those over the weekend who came out in support of another referendum, I mean, estimates were that 1 million people showed up in London to protest here. So is that what it seems like the people want right now, is referendum number 2?
Well, that's essentially where things are heading. If we look at the trajectory of all the opinion polls over the last 2 years, we've seen a slow shift in public opinion towards wanting to be able to have what we would call a confirmatory referendum at the end of the process. So for voters really to be able to weigh up the pros and cons of where things stand, of where things, how things have developed in the Brexit negotiations, and to weigh them up with the promises which were made by the campaign which was successful in the 2016 campaign. And what we see, I mean, there are two clear trends. Firstly, voters want to be able to get their say, so a referendum at the end of the process. And now we see that there are more people who want to stay in the European Union than leave the European Union. Now, it may be that in the coming days, either tomorrow in Parliament or maybe on Wednesday, that there may be votes on certain amendments, for example, including on a confirmatory referendum. But it may be that we're not quite there yet at this stage. It's true, 1 million people on the streets, it's huge. That was one of the biggest protest marches we've ever had in the history of the United Kingdom. But it may be as a first stage that what is actually needed is an extension of the Article 50, that's the Brexit negotiation process, finishes at the moment of the 31st of October. The government's plans to get through the entire deal, if you like, by Thursday of next week. That's only 10 days of parliamentary scrutiny. If Parliament were to sit every single day, it's really not enough time to be able to scrutinise a deal which is as important as this, which will have such huge implications to the United Kingdom, not just now, but in the medium and the long term as well. So I think as a very lowest common denominator, what we should be able to see is an extension of Article 50. Boris Johnson has already submitted a letter to that effect to the other EU leaders, and it's now up for them to respond to this. But sure, in the next couple of days, the action will very much be in the British Parliament.
Thomas, perhaps for my own edification here, can you break down exactly what the UK needs to do to appease some of the other members like Northern Ireland who have found issues with the wording as recently as Friday and continuously one of the major constituents that need to be satisfied any direction that we go forward?
Yeah, of course, and I think this is probably one of the key issues, if not the key issue, is the issue of how to square the circle of the whole UK leaving the European Union, both on regulatory issues and also on customs, so tariff issues as well, whilst at the same time keeping the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland as open as it is today. And essentially it's been proven not to be possible. And what's happened in this latest iteration of the withdrawal agreement, this is the fourth such iteration. Theresa May tried on 3 occasions to get her deal through and failed on 3 occasions. In this particular text now, de facto what it does is it makes Northern Ireland align with EU rules. So rules in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland would be the same. And it also creates a customs barrier, if you like, a tariff barrier down the Irish Sea, so between one part of the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland, and the rest of the United Kingdom, Great Britain. And that's a real problem for one of the parties which supports Boris Johnson in the British Parliament, the Democratic Unionist Party. They have 10 MPs. And in the situation where Boris Johnson is having a minority government, those 10 votes are crucial. They've said they cannot support the deal as it currently is. The problem that Johnson has is that the UK government have already negotiated or renegotiated this agreement with the European Union on multiple occasions. And from the side of the EU27, the remaining EU27 member states and the European Commission, they're slowly losing patience with the UK. And I think it's very clear that if the UK government were to go back and say we want a new, deal number 3 or deal number 4, the EU would say, look, guys, we're really sorry, but this is the best we can do. It's take it or leave it. I think ultimately what this is going to boil down to is Boris Johnson is going to have to rely on votes, potentially some votes of the Labour opposition party, and he's going to have to, unfortunately for the Democratic Unionist Party, if he wants to get this through, he's going to have to proverbially throw them under the bus.
Yeah, and that's right, those 10 votes, the DUP, no signs of softening. Really quickly, what is Operation Yellowhammer?
So Operation Yellowhammer, this is the UK government's, provisions for the worst case scenario if a no-deal Brexit were to happen. So there's no agreement at all. They would then enter into force on the 1st of November, and essentially it's pretty scary stuff. We're talking power outages, we're talking medicine shortages, we're talking food shortages, but these are the contingency plans which the government have put in place, and they accept themselves this will certainly be suboptimal. But that's essentially where we are, and that's why we as a campaign say this decision, which was started by the British people in 2016, should go back to the British people as well in a confirmatory referendum.
All right, Thomas, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. Thomas Cole is the head of policy at People's Vote.